With Vince McMahon facing a federal investigation and more, this is Wrestling Rambles. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Before we move on, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Rambles with notifications on, and don't forget to like the video. On X, a user posted an idea for a match in WWE, writing, "Just hear me out. Triple threat main event on night 2 of WrestleMania 40. Winner takes home all the gold. Winner gets crowned as the face of WWE. Am I cooking or am I cooking?" Cody Rhodes would even reply with the eyes emoji. Recalling her early NXT days in WWE, Becky Lynch noted this on her never-before-told series. "Coming into WWE, I had one very specific goal, and that was to main event WrestleMania and make women's wrestling the coolest thing on TV, and to change the game and to be seen as equal. Even in my early stages in NXT, it was weird and confusing because you were told that women can't punch, and you can't use things like steps, and you can't use the post. Are we supposed to just hair pull and slap each other? It's very confusing. I even remember being told, move like a girl. What? I am a girl. What do you mean? It was also very confusing." Yesterday, AEW commentator Jim Ross provided a health update, writing on X, "Had cancer surgery this morning on my right hip. All went well. Thanks for all your love and support." As former MLW champion Jacob Fatu is now a free agent, Rikishi would advocate for him on social media, writing, "Jacob Fatu, Samoan werewolf, if you know, then you know, has been the baddest talented indie worker on the scene. It's time. Who will sign him, WWE or AEW? He's been ready. The Samoan dynasty. Let the wolf eat." Going over the physical toll that pro wrestling has had on his body, Matt Hardy said this on his Extreme Life podcast. "When you have two great football teams facing one another, there can be an upset. One team may be predicted to win. When you have two great Major League Baseball teams playing, there can be an upset. These guys are professionals. I think when you have two great wrestlers, you can have anybody beat anybody on any given night, and I do think that's important. If you have a handful of guys that you're putting all your eggs in a basket, and those are the guys who are going to sit in the rankings over and over again, then you take credibility away from other people. The thing about pro wrestling, it's just, at the end of the day, it's still entertainment. There's a lot of athleticism in it, but you have to remember to blend the entertainment aspects so you have acts that are super popular and people like to see them and people will pay to see them. But you can't just shut them out because they don't win matches. That's what that ranking system can do. And when you do it like that, it becomes a losing scenario. I think about it all the time. I know my memory is nowhere near as good as it used to be. I am not as fast as I used to be. It's crazy. But like these cold plunges I've been doing, I feel like they've helped my memory. They've been very good for my brain as well. I have thought about it a lot and how I'm going to be. I feel like one of the important things is that I am aware, so that allows me to still do things to protect myself. Like I don't take crazy bumps on my head. These AEW fans, if they're looking for me to go out there and take this high angle bump on my head, I'm just not going to do it. I wrestle a solid, clean match. That's what I do, but I do protect myself. I have more than sacrificed so much of myself for the pro wrestling business. It's my job to go out there, and I'm an entertainer more than an athlete in this day and age. I can still go out there and do my thing, but I'm not going to take things that are risky and something that I think could hurt me bad, because I need to be around as long as I can possibly be for my kids. In 97, 98, I remember hearing from people in the dressing room who said, if the boys don't like you, if you're not accepted by the boys and people don't feel like you fit into this dressing room, then the office will get rid of you. So it was very important that you would fit in. One person that kind of comes to mind that really got a bad rap, and I don't know if he just rubbed people the wrong way or whatever, was Don Callis when he was there as the Jackal. They ended up sticking him with JBL and Ron Simmons. It was so contentious with him, and he had issues with, the JBLs and the Takers, whatever, but then the office said, well, it's not working out. What's going on? This is once again him just voicing his opinion to these guys, as opposed to, I guess, succumbing to them or whatever. They said, okay, well, we're gonna have to part ways with you, and he ended up being released ultimately out of that. And I think his deal was up or whatever, but that kind of ended up being his downfall at the end of the day. In a behind-the-scenes video released by WWE, Bayley reflected on her winning the Women's Royal Rumble match at Tropicana Field, saying, "Crazy being in this building because we did the Thunderdome in this building. I had so many cool, crazy, sad memories here. This is really where, the locker room came together, so it's cool to be out there with all of them and a lot of new people. I don't know, I feel crazy, but I feel I don't know. I don't know how to feel. I don't know if I'm supposed to say I deserve this because I don't know if I deserve it. This business is so crazy. It just goes so many different ways, but I'm just proud that I fought for this and I did it in such a different way. I did it with my girls. I didn't do it alone. I did it with them, and they helped me get to this next level that I needed to get to. I wasn't even on the freaking Rumble poster, I'm not on the chairs, but I'm a winner, That feels good. I don't know. This is the year that's gonna really showcase everything that I've learned and experienced through all those freaking times here. Talking about his decision to sign with TNA Wrestling, former WWE star Nic Nemeth told the Wrestling Perspective podcast, "When people are going out of their way to text me or call me and say, listen, this is the place where you can help a bunch of people here, all while being the person with a lot of focus on them. And you can bring some eyes to the show, and there's all these different little pieces. Man, I can still help, I can still teach, but I have 20 more years to go. Can I grow here and become even bigger than everything I've amassed in my past? I know this seems like the play. I like Japan. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I can exist. I don't know if I can be good enough to hold up there. I can go to these two places. New Japan and TNA are the two on my radar right now that I think I can do something special and I can be a part of and help grow it to an even bigger audience." Explaining why there were recent changes made to commentary in WWE, the Wrestling Observer newsletter noted, with Kevin Patrick being gone and Pat McAfee being brought in, the announcing teams are now Michael Cole and McAfee on Raw and Wade Barrett and Corey Graves on SmackDown. The idea is that Graves will be the play-by-play guy, and he's never technically been that, but has in actuality had to carry that for a few announcers they've brought in. Traditionally, the play-by-play guy is the voice of the baby faces, and the color guy can be the voice of the heels or straight. Barrett and Graves have always been heel side announcers, so it will be interesting because if the announcers both continually put over the heels, they become the faces. So Graves will likely have to adjust somewhat. Essentially, the changes were because McAfee agreed to come back. He must really love wrestling because with the money he makes, $17 million per year, and having a family and having a daily studio show means he has to do a show and then fly out to wherever Raw is late every week. Look, if you're WWE and he's up for doing it, you absolutely use him. He's super enthusiastic and his name value is huge right now, but he can't be the play-by-play guy, and Cole or a Vic Joseph would have to be with him. Barrett did a great job with Cole and they didn't want to get rid of him, and Patrick was the weakest link. The one thing is it would be far tougher for McAfee continuing on that schedule during football season, particularly since for his talk show he would have to be watching Monday Night Football for his Tuesday show, and his schedule is much tighter doing the added college football related programming like Game Day that he's on, but that's 8 months away. Mentioning a change that has been made for WrestleMania 40, WrestleVotes reported that source states WWE has made the decision to change the WrestleMania start time. The main card will now begin at 7 p.m. Eastern, presumably with a kickoff show starting at 5 p.m. Eastern. This will be for both nights of WrestleMania. When it comes to the potential dream match in WWE between The Rock and Roman Reigns, Ringside News wrote that according to Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, the potential match between The Rock and Roman Reigns is still being considered. Rock has expressed his interest in media interviews and is reportedly advocating strongly for the matchup. Meltzer mentioned that discussions have included the possibility of holding the match in Saudi Arabia, with the idea that this bout could result in the government offering higher financial compensation to both the company and The Rock. However, the potential match between The Rock and Roman Reigns is not confirmed. Dave Meltzer noted it might take place at next year's WrestleMania in the end. It also could be at next year's Mania, but that would make many years in a row where that match was talked about for next year's Mania. With Wrestling World CC posting a selfie that The Rock's daughter Ava Raine took, the woman herself would respond to this post and clarify the situation with her name, writing, "For literally the third time, it's just Ava." During the NXT Vengeance Day media call, Shawn Michaels had this to say about TNA Knockouts champion Jordynne Grace's involvement in the Women's Royal Rumble match. "I've always sort of seen her from afar and I've always wondered, I don't know, what if she'd be interested coming down next year, coming to the WWE, but my fault for never reaching out because I assume if you're with another company, that's not allowed. I think some things that probably we were never even allowed to consider or look at in the past is at least something that we can begin to look at and think about in the future. I, for one, very excited about that again, but those are things on a corporate level that I don't get to say so." Making a shocking revelation regarding her run in pro wrestling, Brandi Rhodes wrote this on X. "There were a handful of legit idiots who made my time in wrestling harder than it needed to be, but when I hear of the cold dishes of karma they've been served, it gives me absolutely no pleasure." This was me giving my daughter an example of what a bold-faced lie is. Giving her take on the Vince McMahon allegations, former WWE star Maria Kanellis wrote on X, "All the news coming out is horrible. Many of us experienced or heard rumors of different levels of evil for years. Some tried to speak up to build momentum to change the culture in WWE. Many times we've been called bitter or crazy. Others have been paralyzed by fear. I just hope justice is served and I hope this brings some people peace. I pray for all of the victims, the ones that have spoke up, the ones no longer with us, and the ones that suffer in silence." Revealing his plan to have a retirement match, Mick Foley said this on his podcast. 60 is right around the corner. I'm thinking of doing one final match for my 60th birthday. Death match. I think it'd be a great incentive to drop those 100 big ones pounds, and I think it might be fun. No, because I think it would be a pretty gory spectacle. I'm just thinking about it. I put it out there to two of my kids, and they were like, "Would you get hurt?" "Yeah, probably. I wouldn't have to get my brain rattled. I'm not adverse to getting a few stitcheroonies here and there. I mean, it won't be for everyone, and rightfully, that's not good for you. It could help me lose 100 pounds. That's what I'm missing. I did drop the 100, but I had the WrestleMania thing. I was already down 50. I had Vince in my ear where I made the promise to him that I would be down 80. But I don't have any type of incentive, so it's something I'm throwing out there. This time next year, we might have to revisit that option." Providing a brief update on his health as he seemingly underwent surgery during his 3-month hiatus from AEW, Rey Fenix wrote on X that back and legs getting used to the new hip. With Smackdown going on tonight, it seems a big name is backstage, as Ringside News wrote. PW Insider is now reporting that CM Punk has undergone surgery for his torn triceps and is backstage for the February 2nd episode of WWE Smackdown. He was seen sporting a brace after having undergone surgery. Punk's involvement in the show is still not known at the time of writing. However, it should be noted that even The Rock is set to make a surprise appearance on Smackdown, as he was spotted in a gym in Birmingham. As Brock Lesnar is believed to be involved in the allegations against Vince McMahon in the sex trafficking lawsuit, an update was provided by PW Insider, who said WWEshop.com has placed 99% of all merchandise related to Brock Lesnar on discount sale. In speaking to WWE sources today, we are told that going forward, Lesnar is off the table from all creative pitches. Shawn Ross Sapp of Fightful confirmed this as well, writing on X that Brock Lesnar has been removed from WWE's creative plans. Talking about if Triple H had knowledge of the Vince McMahon scandal, Dave Meltzer noted in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, he's the effing cerebral assassin, best politicking dude in history, literally wormed his way from a green entry-level wrestler into a still average wrestler, absolute top of the office executive. You think he doesn't pay attention to what's going on around him? Think he did that without knowing every little thing everywhere in that company? Yet somehow this slipped past his radar? The thing about that place is if TKO starts cleaning house, they're going to show up with a bucket and some Lysol, then realize that in the walls, in the floorboards, they're going to have to bring out the sledgehammer because that is going to turn into a demolition job down to the foundation. Sledgehammer pun not intended. Mentioning the potential status of the NDAs from the Vince McMahon scandal, Ringside News wrote that according to Vice, the non-disclosure agreement at the center of the lawsuit might actually be useless. The issue in Grant's case may become academic, as her lawsuit suggests that Vince McMahon did not fulfill the agreed upon hush money payment in exchange for signing the NDA. This could potentially render the contract void. If similar language is found in NDAs signed by others, it might provide grounds to challenge those agreements, as suggested by a person familiar with the case. Kerry Goldberg, an attorney who represented victims of Harvey Weinstein, criticized the document, calling it poorly drafted. Weinstein had utilized NDAs to silence some of his victims over several decades. Goldberg pointed out the central issue with the agreement, highlighting its lack of specificity. This aligns with Grant's legal argument that the NDA should be voided because of its overly broad language, potentially restricting her from including WWE on her resume. Goldberg noted the absence of specific information defining what should be kept confidential. The NDA makes references to confidentiality, but there's no definition of what to be confidential about, said Goldberg. It's very vague. Usually there's super specific information about what to be confidential about. Kerry Goldberg pointed out additional issues with the NDA, including the fact that the copy filed by Grant in federal court in Connecticut was not signed by Vince McMahon in either his personal capacity or his role as the then chair of WWE. Typically, all parties involved would receive an executed copy of the contract. However, it was reported that a source familiar with the matter claimed that the contract was indeed executed, with McMahon secretly signing on behalf of both himself and WWE after consulting with his longtime attorney Jerry McDevitt. Goldberg described this apparent conflict of interest as bizarre. Jody Short, a professor at UC Law San Francisco specializing in NDAs, believes that the agreement in question is invalid on its face. However, she notes that in practice, this might not carry significant weight. In an email to Vice News, she expressed, "It is my considered opinion that NDAs such as the one you sent me are unenforceable under common law contract doctrine, but but there is very little case law squarely on point, and litigating such a case would expose an individual to enormous cost and litigation risk. That's why most people end up silenced by NDAs, even if technically they're not worth the paper they're written on. It's not just the paper. It's paper backed by an extreme asymmetry in resources between the two parties. Kerry Goldberg concurs, emphasizing that survivors should not be burdened with societal debts. While an NDA may be legally ineffective in theory, proving it in court is a potentially challenging process with an uncertain outcome. This could define a victim by the worst experience they endured and lead to substantial financial burdens. We'll have to see what will become of Vince McMahon in the end. In a report from Fightful regarding the lawsuit against Vince McMahon, it was said that a longtime employee of WWE says that they don't even believe that this lawsuit is the worst of it, pointing to higher settlement. Other potential victims have been identified and contacted by attorneys and media outlets to see if they want to take action. Staying on this topic, this would be said by the Wall Street Journal. Federal authorities have been investigating sexual assault and sex trafficking allegations against WWE co-founder Vince McMahon, according to people familiar with the investigation. Prosecutors in New York in recent months have been in contact with women who have accused McMahon of sexual misconduct, the People said. And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all later.